Yo, what is going on, guys? Back again with another video. In today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at the Fifine soundboard for streamers and podcasters. When it comes to size, this is actually much smaller than I expected it to be. Before I even get into the video and all the intricacies and details, just make sure you sound the subscribe button and you hop on board the notifications. So starting off, as I mentioned already, it's pretty small. It's smaller than I expected actually. And to be honest, that's necessarily not a bad thing. So as it comes to the interface, there's going to be 12 keys in total. So starting off on the top left, you have the 48-volt phantom fader for XLR microphones. And the good thing is there's no need for external devices or anything external to be able to enable the 48-volt phantom fader. So incidentally, also on the top right, that's where there's the button to control the RGB lights. If you're a streamer, then ambient light just makes things look better. In general, the RGB lights typically don't add to the quality of soundboards. Other than that, the 6 buttons you can play with for effects. There's a voice change, which has 6 different effects on its own. And there's the electric button, which this one is basically like a tuner. And if you're familiar with music theory, then you know your keys from A all the way to G. This will allow you to switch between 12 different keys, just so everything sounds as accurate as you personally want it to. And then there's the 4 custom buttons, A, B, C, and D. These you can customize to what you want. These sound effects are used for recordings and for playbacks. As for the faders, which I didn't include as part of the actual buttons, the first fader increases or decreases the volume of the first microphone input. Second fader increases or decreases the line in volume. And the third fader, this one is used more for the monitoring of the headphones, and it's used for real-time monitoring. The last fader is for line out control, which you can mute or unmute as well. Now, as for the ports on the back, I'd like to give a quick shout out first to Fifine for the cables at the stand, because they come with USB-C, but they also have a USB connector just so you can be able to connect to whichever medium that you wish to be using. So on the back, there's going to be 6 ports in total with 1 button, which I'll get to in a minute. The 3 on the left will be for the output, and the 3 on the right will be for the input devices. The first port, obviously starting on the left, is going to be for the computers or PCs, or even if you use a Mac. And then there's going to be a port for speakers and cell phones. And then there's going to be an output port for headphones as well. As for the 3 ports on the right side, the first, starting from the outermost left, is going to be an aux port for cell phones as input device, for example. The second, the one in the middle, is going to be for headphones. And then the last one is going to be an XLR. As for the switch, it's going to allow you to choose if you're using a condenser microphone or a dynamic microphone. And this will basically allow you to have better effects for the microphone that is compatible. Other than that, there's not much when it comes to the overall architecture of the design of the soundboard. After some time playing with it, it's easy to get assimilated with. It's intimidating at first, but over time it gets easier to assimilate. Now, quality wise, it's pretty light as a soundboard. It doesn't feel like it's made of metal, but it still feels firm and steady for the material that they used. And to be honest, the buttons on the soundboard feel how you'd expect them to feel for a soundboard. Something that can be a little confusing when it comes to the LED indicators at the top. Now, there's 2 sides and both are connected to 2 of the sliders. So the one thing is, when you increase the volume on one fader, it has to reset to show you how the volume is when you want to increase on the secondary fader. Of course, one of the main interfaces that's going to be used in conjunction with the soundboard, if you want to be a streamer or even a podcaster, is OBS. And for my testing personally, I didn't run into any glitches or bugs when I was using OBS. It also was not laggy or slow at any moment. So this is an easy plug and play soundboard, which, to be honest, the less software you need to use, the better. So if you've played with OBS before, then this is going to be really familiar. Conclusion on this soundboard is it offers a whole lot more than other soundboards, especially for the competing price points. And it's also good for beginners, although I don't think it's particularly garnered for beginners, given that it has more to offer and has a lot more options than would be easy for beginners to get assimilated to. I also like the addition of the tuner, but also at the same time, nothing feels condensed, given that there is a lot of options and a lot of things that you can use on the soundboard. The only thing, in my opinion, that I personally think felt a little condensed was the 2 RGB lights that have to run 2 different faders at the same time, because every time you have to use one, the other kind of like has to reset just to show what level it's at. In my opinion, this is a good enough soundboard to get if you're just trying to start. Although it's not garnered for beginners, it's still good enough where after some time playing with it, after some time using it, then you start to get used to it, and it'll all just feel natural, and you can just get on your way either on your streaming or your podcasting. But at the end of the day, that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think. I'm Khadija, I'm out.